Did you know that for decades, the visual history of Africa was largely controlled by European colonizers? The story of African empires, of powerful kingdoms and rich cultures, was deliberately suppressed. But a new generation of African filmmakers emerged, armed with cameras, determined to reclaim their heritage. This is the story of how African cinema became a tool of historical recovery, a way to bring lost empires back to life. Cinema arrived in Africa almost as soon as it was invented, but initially, it was a one-way street. European and American companies controlled the financing, the direction, and the distribution. In British and French colonies, film became a tool of governance, a way to teach obedience and instill European values. In Francophone Africa, the French offered more institutional support, but with strings attached. Censorship was tight, and oversight was constant. The goal was clear: to shape the narrative, to present Africans as passive recipients of civilization. But everything changed in the 1960s. Independence movements swept across the continent, and with them came a new wave of African voices, eager to tell their own stories. One of the earliest and most important films was Afrexcessine, made in Paris in 1955 by a group of African students. It was a defiant act of self-representation, a glimpse into the lives and experiences of Africans in the heart of Europe. But it was Ousmane Sembène of Senegal who truly revolutionized African cinema. He is widely regarded as the father of African film. His 1977 film Sedo is a powerful exploration of Islamization, European penetration, and political power in pre-colonial Senegal. Sembène and other filmmakers in the 1970s turned their cameras towards African history, towards the stories of slavery, colonialism, and resistance. They came from Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, Senegal, and Mauritania. They were part of a larger movement known as Third Cinema, which argued that film should be a tool for liberation. These filmmakers believed that cinema should challenge Eurocentric narratives, recover African memory, support Pan-African unity, and provoke audiences to action. Their films often used innovative techniques, like montages of different historical moments, layered sound, and documentary footage. They weren't just telling stories, they were building a counter-archive, challenging the colonial histories that had dominated for so long. One of the key targets of this counter-archive was the erasure of African empires. Colonial films had often portrayed Africa as a land without states, without advanced societies, without history. But the reality was far different. Empires like Mali, Songhai, Dahomey, Asante, Kanem-Bornu, and Great Zimbabwe had flourished for centuries, with sophisticated systems of governance, trade, and learning. These empires were known internationally mainly through colonial ethnography, missionary records, European travel writing, and museum collections, all filtered through a European lens. African filmmakers set out to reclaim these stories, to show the world that African history didn't begin with colonization. They restored statecraft, diplomacy, warfare, trade, scholarship, and religious debate as central themes in African history. They challenged the colonial narrative of a civilizing mission by showing Africans as rulers, thinkers, strategists, traders, scholars, and agents of change. They helped to build a sense of Pan-African identity, a shared sense of continental pride and historical continuity. Consider the example of Timbuktu. For years, it was often portrayed as a remote, almost mythical city. But African filmmakers revealed its true significance as a center of learning and scholarship, tied to the Mali Empire and the wider Sahelian world. Films about the manuscript of Timbuktu and the ancient astronomers of Timbuktu showcased Africa's intellectual achievements, challenging the stereotype of a continent without science or learning. The support offered by the French in Francophone Africa was a double-edged sword. While it provided resources and training, it also came with control and oversight. But African filmmakers found ways to navigate these constraints, to use the system to tell their own stories. Today, African cinema continues to evolve. Modern African states often use film and television to celebrate national founders, reinterpret royal dynasties, promote tourism, and strengthen heritage institutions. Streaming platforms and documentary festivals have created new opportunities for African filmmakers to reach global audiences. But debates continue about who gets to tell African history, about whether foreign studios distort African empires, and about whether big-budget productions flatten regional diversity. One of the biggest historical distortions is the tendency to portray Africa as lacking large states before Europe's arrival. This obscures the reality of powerful empires with taxation systems, standing armies, diplomatic relations, commercial networks, and sophisticated learning centers. Colonial censorship suppressed narratives that highlighted African sovereignty, resistance, Islamic scholarship, and trans-Saharan trade power. Even today, African history is often reduced to slavery, warfare, or poverty, erasing scientific achievement, urbanism, architecture, manuscript culture, legal systems, and courtly civilization. Some historical films focus heavily on kings and male warriors, while women rulers, market queens, spiritual authorities, and ordinary producers of history are often sidelined. Films inspired by African empires can trigger debates over costume and language accuracy, the blending of myth and history, and whether modern nationalist narratives are projecting onto the past. The work of filmmakers like Ousmane, the students who made Afrexcessing, and countless others, has helped to reclaim African sovereignty in the historical imagination. They have shown that African cinema is not just about entertainment, it is about reclaiming a lost past, challenging dominant narratives, and building a more just and equitable future. African cinema continues to influence documentary practice, heritage cinema, post-colonial theory, and Black Atlantic cultural politics. It is a testament to the power of film to shape our understanding of history, to challenge our assumptions, and to inspire us to action.